Halowars lets you build scorpions, hornets, and even Spartans. So why would anyone rely on basic marines? I mean, they die to everything. No OSDs, no Spartans, just a bunch of guys with assault rifles and an unshakable will to die for the cause. Is this even possible? Well, let's find out together. Before we begin, here are the rules. This challenge was done on legendary difficulty with no skulls, glitches, or exploits, and we're not allowed to build any non-marine units or use non-marine units, or this wouldn't be a marine only challenge. Now there are some missions that do have required units. When we get to those missions, I'll go more into depth. Our journey starts with Alpha Base. Within the first 5 seconds of the challenge, we already hit our first roadblock. You're supposed to use Forge to save this Strand Marine from the Covenant. But here's the thing, I don't want to use Forge, and there's no way I'm using a non-marine within the first 5 seconds of the challenge. So I figured, let me sit back and see what happens. Bro, I couldn't believe my eyes. The Marines actually just save themselves, and once the Marine kills the Covenant forces, you're allowed to move on. I ended up doing the same strategy with all the other Strand Marines. And once I got enough Marines, it's time for the final part of the mission. There's a Wraith that needs to be cleared out. And with just Marines, it's no easy task. Fortunately, they got a powerful grenade ability, which is really strong at clearing out a single target. I use this powerful ability to take down the Wraith. This grenade ability will be carrying us in many missions. There are 4 key objectives: taking out the hangar, wiping out the Covenant's base, disabling the force field, and finally, destroying the detonator. We start with the hangar. Disable those annoying spirit dropships from attacking our base. Next up will be the Covenant's base, and this is where the mission should get tough. The game expects you to clear it out before moving forward. But what if we just didn't do that? Instead of charging head on onto the Covenant's base, we'll actually be running straight past the Covenant's base. And while the Covenant definitely notices us, it will just keep going. We will lose a few Marines along the way, but it's a small price to pay for skipping an entire fight. Then we hit the force field. The game wants us to disable it, but here's the thing, we don't actually need to. We'll just walk through like we own the place, ignoring everything in our path. Our goal is the detonator, and we're not stopping for any reason. By the time we reach the detonator, the Covenant is scrambling to stop us, but it's already too late. When you got 30 Marines all tossing grenades at once, the detonator doesn't just explode, it ceases to exist. We start this mission with 2 Grizzlies, which normally is a very awesome thing, but they're nothing more than temporary firepower. The real goal here is to save Forge and Anders, but only then do we get finally access to the Marines. Until that happens, I have no choice but to use the Grizzlies to push forward. But as soon as we save Forge and Anders, it's time to dispose of the Grizzlies. Now, I could send them into battle to get destroyed, but that's boring though. Instead, I'll get a Grizzly stuck in this corner because funny. And then I'll put the other Grizzly up here because another funny. At this point, the mission feels strange. I'm playing through in a way that I've never done before, because normally you would just rely on the Grizzlies and never the Marines. But for once, my entire years of playing Halo Wars, I'm doing this with just the Marines and saying screw you Grizzlies. Surprisingly though, the Marines can actually hold their own. They're enough to clear the Covenant forces while I wait for the bridge to be activated. They even managed to take down some hunters in the process. With a little patience, I managed to escort Forge and Anders to the end of the mission. Remember Alpha Base, where we had a strategy of doing absolutely nothing? Well, guess what? We're running that strategy once again. Before we can fully embrace that strategy, we do have to clear out the initial Covenant attack on the humans that are pinned down here. But once that's handled, we kick back and pray. Using the 4 horns and Forge here is optional, so I just decided not to use them at all. Instead, it's all up to Red Team, for they are our only line of defense, and their one job is to protect the planes. Sounds simple, right? Wrong, because apparently the biggest threat to this run isn't the Covenant. It's actually Red Team uncontrollable urge to hijack a ghost. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many runs ended because one of them thought, funny, I'm gonna hop in the ghost, instantly throwing the entire attempt away. All I could also do was sit there and watch as they hijacked the ghost. But finally, after suffering the hands of RNG, everything aligned. Red Team behaved, no ghosts were stolen, we finally had a possible success attempt on their hands. Now, just because all this is going on doesn't mean we're not out of the clear yet. Building up our base and Marines took time, and the Covenant loved to show up uninvited more than once. they wiped us out before we even had a chance to fight back. But once we finally got everything rolling, the mission was actually pretty easy. Even with just one plane left, defending it was actually pretty simple. Just keep Marines nearby and spam heal and repair on the plane whenever it took damage. The only real concern after all this is the mega turret in the final minute of the mission. That mega turret could have ended the run right there, but thankfully with a whole army of Marines, Covenant decided to target them instead of the plane, allowing us to beat Arcadia City. Right from the start, things are looking rough. I only get one Marine on this mission, and I tried doing it with just said Marine. That didn't work though. The Covenant wiped the floor with me. This led me to realization. Many missions starts with ODSTs, some with Marines and some with no Marines at all. That's when I made a slight adjustment to the challenge rules. I'm still not allowed to build ODSTs or upgrade Marines into ODSTs, but the game hands them to me, I can use them. I felt like this allowed me to explore these impossible missions that otherwise would be impossible since you don't start with any Marines, but still staying true to the challenge, as best as I can. With a small rule change in play, we can actually do this mission. Normally the go-to strategy on this mission is to cheese the mega turret by destroying it quickly while it's still in construction, but not this time. Since every single unit was needed to defend the base, I had no choice but to outlast the mega turret instead. I figured, okay, once I stabilize, I'll build up an army and take it out. But then, the Covenant decided to do a funny. Instead of attacking us, they just camped beside my base with a ridiculous amount of units. I tried pushing out, but I was completely swarmed. I had no way to break through. Then, something I did not plan for happened. The key to our victory. Every time the mega turret fired at my base, it gave vision of itself for a few seconds. That's when I realized I didn't have to destroy the Covenant army. I could just Mac Blast the mega turret into oblivion whenever it shot at me. It turns out the mega turret actually wasn't that big of a threat. I could just heal my buildings, rebuild anything that got destroyed, and just wait it out while we kept hitting it with Mac Blasts. With the mega turret finally gone, we can attack the Covenant's base. With my full force of Marines and the fully upgraded Mac Blast, destroying the Covenant's base was a breeze. Dome of Light was a mission I never really worried about. In fact, I pretty much already ran this mission with almost all Marines before. Dome of Light has a lot of Banshees on this mission. The Marines can actually handle themselves pretty well, and unlike the unit Wolverines, they can at least put up a fight against the Hunters. So for the most part, this mission felt pretty straightforward. The goal is simple in this mission: get 5 Rhinos in these 5 locations and keep them alive. This time I decided to allow rebuilding the Rhinos since they don't engage in combat and they're essential for progressing the mission. It didn't feel like I was breaking the Marines only rule challenge at the time, but I am curious though, what do you guys think? Moving forward, should require units be exempt from the challenge restrictions, or should I force a restart if one goes down? Let me know down in the comments. The first 2 locations were very easy. The Marines would brute force their way through the Covenant defenses without much issue. Then came Rhino 3. While transporting it to the next location, I somehow managed to get it stuck.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer? Every night, I can feel my leg.
On the terrain, which I never thought was possible. Things did get a bit trickier with locations 4 and 5. I had to split up my army in 2 areas, covering both spots at once. The reason why we split up our army like this is when Rhino 3 locks into place, a cutscene will trigger. But during the cinematic, my units remain active, which allows us to tear through Covenant structures mid-construction during the cutscene without retaliation. With locations 4 and 5 cleared out, they can't cause us a problem anymore, and we have all the time in the world to set up the last 2 Rhinos. Scarab is one of those missions that become a whole different kind of challenge when you're stuck using only Marines. Normally, I rely on Scorpions to handle the Scarab. Big tank for big problem. But when all you got Marines, yeah, things can get a little tricky. The real issue, Marines are very slow. The Scarab's beam carves through the battlefield. And while vehicles can try to dodge the beam, Marines, no, they just don't make it. They just die. So, is there anything we can do to make it so the Marines can dodge the laser beam? Yes, there are 2 things we're going to do to fix this issue. First, we'll take out the power nodes scattered across the map. Every node destroyed slows down how fast the Scarab turns its head, which gives our Marines a slightly better chance at surviving. Then, we grab the Adrenaline upgrade, which cranks up their movement speed to 11. And when it's finally time to take down the Scarab, our strategy for it is to swarm it. Marines flood the battlefield, opening fire from all directions. We try to move them out of the way when the beam sweeps across. But honestly, if they die, they die. That's just part of the plan. We'll replace them every time they die and keep pushing forward until the scarab is nothing but scrap metal. I get the scarab very low into the red. Then, disaster strikes. The scarab turns its attention to my base as I watch his beam charge up, aimed directly at my base. And that's when it hits me. A single desperate thought that might just save this mission. A ridiculous last-ditch idea that no commander in their right mind would ever consider. What if I made a single file line of Marines that will block the scarab's attack? I scrambled to form a line of Marines directly in the scarab's path, throwing bodies in front of it, while the rest of my Marines keep firing. And somehow, to my surprise, it actually works. The Marines do keep dropping like flies, but that's okay though. I'll keep replacing them with a new squad of Marines every time one dies. And just like that, with my crazy idea, we were able to destroy the scarab.
Literally had a suicide line for the scarab to protect the base. Oh my gosh, that's insane. That was so close at the end, dude.
At the start of the mission, things are pretty simple. We only have two options, Marines and flamethrowers. That's it. But thankfully, Anders Single was designed for Marines to do most of the work, if not all the work. So the first section of the mission plays out like a normal mission. Red team comes in, clears out the Covenant, and afterwards we get a new objective, rescue 2 elephants. Here is where we meet our worst nightmare, and why this mission was such a challenge, the Flood. And if you ever fought the Flood in any Halo game, you already know what I'm going to talk about. This is going to get ugly. They don't just attack, they infect. One wrong move, and your Marines turn against you. To make things worse, the Flood is brutally effective against infantry. Marines don't stand a chance in a fair fight. So, we just don't fight at all. We'll avoid combat whenever possible, because every engagement, there's a chance we lose our entire army. And just like that, we lost all of our Marines. Cool. So, I was like, okay, I need to rebuild my army. I decided to park my elephant here, in what seems like a safe location. I don't see any nearby enemies, so I decided I gotta go to the bathroom, so I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break. I'll just let the game run, come back. If I die, that's fine. Eventually come back and nothing has happened. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I actually get hungry during this challenge attempt, and I was like, well, I didn't get attacked during my bathroom break, and I could use the supplies. I'm just gonna let the game run again. So I decided to make some dinner. I think I made myself a hamburger.
Here, kitty. You can has cheeseburger.
Maybe it was a steak. Oh, it was lemon pork chops. Yeah, it was a really good dinner. Once I have a whole bunch of supplies, I get my entire army built up. And it's time for another attempt at rescuing the elephants. Thankfully, this attempt, we were successful in rescuing the first elephant. And we move on to the second elephant, which wasn't the biggest problem when you got like 30 Marines. I get the 2 elephants rescued, and the last part of the mission is to escort them back to base. I get them escorted back to base, and we defeat the mission. But the nightmare begins. The next few missions is what I've been dreading this entire time. This mission is where we start to see why Marines Only is an absolute pain of a challenge. So, how are we going to beat this mission? The only logical answer is by sending thousands of men to their death to deal a little bit of chip damage to the main flood base. We're building ODSTs, but at home. Normally ODSTs have an ability that lets you drop them anywhere on the map that you have vision of as a leader power. And that's exactly how we're going to handle the giant flood base. One squad at a time, we will drop them in, spam the grenade ability, and repeat over and over and over. Yeah, I probably sacrificed at least 1,000 men doing this.
Let's go! Only took 20,000 men, one by one, to eventually conquer the Flood. That's such a stupid way to do it. Drop them by transport.
This is the mission I fear the most, Shield World. The sheer amount of flood combined with a hard timer makes this one true test. Most missions in Halo Wars allow you to take your time or choose your way through, but not this one. Here you got 18 minutes to complete the mission, unless you use your gremlin that you get for free from Anders to buy an extra 5 minutes. And even then, that's a hard limit. I lost track of how many times I've attempted this mission, trying to rescue both Bravo and Charlie teams. The real challenge isn't just the flood, it's my own Marine AI. When Marines get infected, they panic, stop moving, and get wiped out, especially in these narrow winding paths. it becomes a serious struggle to move them around without losing a ton of progress. The difficulty also is compounded by the fact that until showtime moment, which is about 10 minutes into the mission, there's nothing you can really do but set up and build your army. This slow build up made repeated attempts feel brutal. So, for the first time ever, I made a decision I've never considered before. I actually saved my progress at a critical point once my army was built up, so that way I didn't have to redo everything the same way every single time. Now, this is safe scumming, yes, I will admit that, and it does feel like it takes away from the challenge. But at this point, I need some consistency and not bash my head against the wall for hours and hours and hours on end. There were times I could save Charlie, but Bravo was still alive, and the mission would fail. Then I tried focusing on Bravo first, but even with perfect planning, it felt impossible to do without the extra 5 minutes from the gremlin. With the added time, my strategy became a bit more consistent, but I still struggled to take out Bravo in time. Clearing Charlie was kind of easy, or at least consistent most of the time, but Bravo always stood in the way of victory. I even tried getting my Marines defected on purpose to kill Bravo, since if I could kill Bravo team, I would only need to save Charlie. I managed to do this one time out of many attempts, and the time I was actually able to successfully kill Bravo, I soft locked the game. The difficulty of this mission made me think, could it really be done without the extra time, and could I even be on Legendary without turning on skulls? I was skeptical, but after so many failed attempts, I decided to make a change. For the first time in my challenge runs ever, I turned on skulls. I'm not a fan of using skulls. I feel like they take away from the challenge. The fun for me comes from wacky, crazy strategies that I develop. But this mission just felt like it needed a little more strength. Once I enabled the skulls, I immediately felt a power shift, extra health, more supplies, faster training, and half cooldowns on our special abilities. It was like a whole new game. The real game changer though was the half cooldown on our grenade ability. This was absolutely overpowered. It allowed me to clear out the flood turrets with ease, which was critical to progressing in the mission. The flood turrets have been one of the toughest obstacles to overcome, but now with that cooldown reduction, I was able to obliterate them quickly, making a huge difference, especially when time is not on our side. The added time from the gremlin and the extra abilities give me the edge I needed to clear up Bravo and Charlie in time. For the first time ever in this entire challenge, I actually feel pretty powerful. Before, I was struggling just to keep up with the mission's demands. Now the tables have turned, it felt like my Marines had suddenly been hitting the gym, or maybe taking some performer answers. The difference in power was staggering me. As the mission progressed, the final strategy became clear. I had to play very aggressively, quickly, and without hesitation. The extra health from the skulls kept my Marines alive long enough to deal with the flood. The added time was a huge help, and the skulls, giving me enough strength to actually beat this mission. Eventually, and barely, we actually complete the mission. And just a little spoiler alert, this is the only mission that has skulls on.
This mission isn't exactly what I would call difficult, at least not in traditional sense. Marines can easily clear all the flood from the top of the Spirit of Fire, no problem at all. The real challenge of this mission actually comes from dealing with the side of the ship. And when I say challenge, I don't mean like it's difficult, it's just very annoying. The only one we can handle with the flood on the side of the Spirit of Fire is with the carpet bomb ability, or just hoping the Forerunners decide to help us, which they usually don't, they just come to attack us. So this mission is a big pain in the ass. Honestly, it's kind of a little ridiculous. This mission isn't really about strategy, it's just sitting around twirling your thumbs and hoping something happens, or you cast carpet bomb enough times to deal with the flood. So yeah, this mission is mostly doing nothing. There's not really a lot of strategy. You clear what you can, spam some carpet bombs, and hope their Forerunners show up to help finish the job. The easiest mission of the entire challenge, by far.
This was the second mission I was really scared of. The way it's designed, you're meant to use your base army and build Cyclopses to beat the mission, but we're not doing that, which makes it incredibly difficult. I tried many times with just Marines and no Cyclopses. That didn't work, so I moved on to using the one Cyclops they give us. I even came close to being on Legendary difficulty. I even tried using Skulls, and that didn't make much of a difference. So I decided to try it on easy. I thought, well, this mission is technically possible, it has to be doable on easy difficulty. If not, well, then we got our answer. Even on easy difficulty, it was still pretty difficult, which really shows that this mission was not designed to be beaten with just Marines. I thought, well, easy wasn't the worst thing in the world. How bad could normal be? Yeah, it was actually awful, horrible. Not only it took me over an hour to beat the mission, but it was a constant battle to defend the ship's core against an infinite number of Covenant units. It was mentally taxing to say the least. I was in the go 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 state the entire time, and after completing this mission, I actually felt mentally exhausted. One interesting thing though I noticed during this whole attempt was that the dropships are actually not random. I always thought they were, but they actually follow a certain order and drop the same units every time. Fascinating to me that even after all these years of playing this game and making challenge videos, I'm still finding new things out about it. With normal difficulty beaten, I move on to heroic, and wow, the game cranked the difficulty up by at least 1000%. Even with skulls and the one Cyclops helping to repair the core, it wasn't enough. Well, I got close to fully repairing the core sometimes. The constant pressure from the Covenant started to overwhelm me. Our dock guns couldn't keep up, and the reinforcements came faster and faster, and too fast that I couldn't even handle. I had managed to get through normal without Cyclopses or skulls, which I never thought would be possible. But on heroic, the difference is night and day. So in terms of our rule set, repairs isn't possible to beat with only Marines. No, that's actually pretty cool. You can actually beat this mission on lower difficulties with just Marines, which I never thought would be possible. But it is time to move on to the next mission and to see if Beachhead is impossible. This mission is the prime example of why I allowed the rule of using ODSTs if given to us. Without that rule, this mission is impossible. And honestly, I wouldn't have discovered some really cool things along the way. The hardest part of this mission is actually the beginning of it. The first base is really designed with Red Team in mind to help you out, but little do they know, with just 4 ODSTs, you can actually handle it and destroy the base. With a little careful maneuver around and making sure none of the ODSTs bite the dust, you are good to go, and it is possible to take down that first base with just those 4 ODSTs. You wanna know how long it took me to do that though? 20 minutes. And I didn't destroy their base just once, but multiple times. They kept sending reinforcements. Now you want to know one of the biggest threats? The elite honor guards. Honestly, these guys are very terrifying. My ODSTs would just drop like flies against them. But here's the thing, elite honor guards have a weakness, cardio. These guys clearly skip their 30-minute runs and focus on bulking up those arms. And if we ever need reinforcements, we can always rely on the Pelican ability to drop in our Marines, aka ODSTs but at home. Now normally you hijack the Scarab with a Spartan, but for the first time ever, I'm going to actually destroy the Scarab. And when we do, most of the Marines will gain a star, making them way stronger offensively and defensively. It's a game changer. Taking over the third base is pretty simple, but things get very difficult when we hit the fourth base. Before we can even approach the fourth base, we're stopped, cold, right in our tracks, by an army of elite honor guards and a Scarab. We need to deal with them separately. We managed to take out the elite honor guards, but they wipe out most of my army in the process. So I rebuild and approach the Scarab again. By using a max level carpet bomb, we actually do some serious damage on that Scarab. Dropping 2 carpet bombs almost kills off the Scarab. And after that, our Marines are more than capable of finishing off the Scarab. Now, with the Scarab down, we just need to finish off the fourth base. And once that's done, we need to build up that fourth base just long enough to fulfill the mission requirements.
Let's go! Holy shit. Holy shit. That was a mission. Hour and 7 minutes. Jeez.
Right from the start, we build an elephant to move the reactor to the back of our base to protect it from Covenant attacks. And yes, this elephant is required for this mission. The Covenant won't wait around, and without our initial forces to defend ourselves from the Covenant attacks, they pose a real threat to destroying our base. So, to counteract this, we must quickly build turrets and an army of Marines. We were able to hold off the relentless attacks from the Covenant, and once we get a full population army, it's time to go on the offensive. The first Covenant base is the toughest to take down, heavily fortified and relentless in its defenses. But after that, we can easily destroy the second and third bases by our overwhelming amount of Marines. With all enemy bases wiped out, we make our final move, guiding the elephant to the top of the mission. That single step that elephant takes sets the stage for what comes next, the final mission. The last mission. I was honestly really worried about how this mission would turn out,
there's a lot going on, and well, Marines haven't exactly been the strongest unit throughout this challenge. But I will give them credit where it's due. They performed way better than I originally thought they would initially, which gives me hope that they could beat the mission escape. The goal is to activate all the interlocks, but that is easier said than done. Each one was surrounded by Covenant and /or Flood forces, meaning we had to clear out the area before we could activate them. This led to several intense fights where positioning and reinforcements were key. Having access to all the leader powers on this mission made a huge difference, allowing us to thin out enemy forces before moving in. The Pelican transport ability was by far the best ability on this mission. I feel like we actually had the ODST upgrade because we could constantly drop our Marines into the fight, whether to reinforce critical positions or respond to enemy attacks. It gives us the flexibility that our Marines desperately need and allow them to move around on the map very fast, ensuring we were always in the right place at the right time. It allowed us to maintain a constant pressure on the enemy and adapt to the evolving battlefield. Now you may see this timer and think to yourself, oh no, another timer. It's gonna be horrible, just like Shield World. Well, we get 30 minutes this time, and honestly, 30 minutes is so much time on this mission that I've never felt like it's been an issue, even in this challenge. As long as we just play well and don't waste time, we will be fine. And with the last interlock open, the mission, the challenge, was finally complete.
Wait, did I do it? No way, no way, no way.
Yo, it only took 20,000 Pelicans going to the sun and dying.
I literally had build your own ODSTs at home. Whew, damn.
This challenge was one of the hardest and most unique ones I've ever taken on. Nearly every mission forced me to think outside the box in ways I've never had before. And after countless battles, I got an answer to the question, can you beat halowars with only Marines on legendary difficulty? The short answer is no. 2 missions, Shield World and Repair, are impossible without making exceptions. But if you allow difficulty adjustments and skulls for just those 2 missions, then yes, you can beat halowars with only Marines. I honestly thought more missions would be impossible to beat on legendary difficulty without skulls. This challenge was an absolute grind, but also a breath of fresh air. If you guys do want to see more single unit challenge runs, let me know down in the comments. Oh yeah, and also, I got a new mic. So thanks for the feedback guys, I appreciate it. But anyways, this is MagicalGarrn signing out.